I got a mic. Yep. Hey, I'm Matt Berman, and I'm going to be talking about Facebook ads today, specifically getting people off of Facebook and onto your product or service and converting them. So, who am I? My name is Matt Berman. I'm a distribution hacker in residence at 500 Startups, which is a fancy term for I help startups grow their business through paid acquisition, email marketing, funnel optimization, all that. Previously, I was consulting for a few different startups. Before that, I worked at a couple of media companies doing user acquisition. But I started my career doing affiliate marketing, which is where I learned a lot of these tricks. So I've been really fortunate. Companies have given me their money to play with, which is nice. But I did play around with some of my own money at the beginning. And I spent a lot of money on Facebook. So here we go. So the problem, over the last year, I've seen multiple articles claiming definitive proof that Facebook ads do not convert. Either they have fraudulent clicks like click farms or just low quality clicks where Facebook users just don't buy anything. I'm here to tell you that is not the case. I've been advertising on Facebook for about 6 years and driving people off of Facebook to conversion goals the entire time. So Facebook does work. So during the talk, I'm going to be talking about three main things. One, creative, what your ad should actually look like. Targeting, who's going to see your ad and how are you going to get them to see your ad. And just some general best practices. And again, this is for driving people off of Facebook and onto your product or service and getting them to sign up, buy something, whatever your conversion goal is. So let's talk about creative first. So what your ads are actually going to look like. And the first thing I want to talk about is something called banner blindness. Banner blindness occurs when users see your ads over and over again, and then consciously or subconsciously, they just start ignoring them, right? And over time, as you can see, what happens is your click-through rate and your overall performance of these ads decreases. There's no real way to prevent banner blindness, but I'll give you some tips to reduce it as much as possible. So one thing you can do to reduce banner blindness is keeping your ad images and your copy really fresh. So making sure people do not see them many, many times, because that's when they start to ignore them. Also, one thing that may work for you is blending your ad, specifically the image, into the organic content on Facebook. So the organic content is the newsfeed. People are used to seeing photos of their friends, photos of their family. So when you're blending your ads into the newsfeed, it tends to reduce banner blindness really well. Now, you're not trying to be misleading with the ads. That's a critical distinction. So a couple exceptions to that. If you have an extremely well-known brand or logo, you can just go ahead and use that. Also, if you have a beautiful physical product that you want to show off, you should use that instead. I'll give some examples of that later on. Okay, so there are two main places that your ads can show up on Facebook, in the sidebar and in the newsfeed. And let's talk about them both. So these are sidebar ads. They've been around forever. Like basically since I've been advertising on Facebook, they've been there. They have a much lower click-through rate and conversion performance because people have become banner blind to them, right? So they've started to ignore them. They clearly look like advertisements. There's also a lot more inventory because there's 3, 4, 5, 6 ads on a single page that rotate out without a page reload. So they tend to be much less expensive. And last, they're actually just not available on mobile. So newsfeed ads, these have only been around a little while, I think 1 or 2 years. They have a much higher click-through rate and conversion performance. This is because Facebook decided to make their advertising blend in with the rest of the organic content on Facebook, and that's why it has a higher click-through rate. It also takes up more screen real estate. There's less inventory, so it tends to be more expensive, but again, the conversion performance is much higher, and at the end of the day, the CPAs all balance out. It's also available both on mobile and desktop. So pretty much since the newsfeed ads have been launched, I barely run sidebar ads anymore. So I really focus on newsfeed ads, especially when you're driving people off of Facebook for conversion goals. All right, let's talk about your images. So I have two examples here, and the thing to note with the images is that you want to keep them really clear, and they should show what you're actually selling, right? So again, I have two examples, example A and example B. So if you guys had to guess what example A was selling, now obviously I know because I made this deck, but if I didn't, I would have guessed maybe children's books, and for example B, something having to do with food, right? So let's look what they actually sell. I apologize if there's someone from Skillshare here, but the one that I thought was selling children's books is actually selling online classes. Now, the image has really nothing to do with the business, so this is not an ad that I would have run. On the other hand, the one that I thought was selling food is Munchery, a startup called Munchery, and they actually do sell food, right? So it's really, you really need to keep your images clear and concise, and don't try to be fancy. Just show off what you're selling. So something I like to do is get somebody that doesn't know anything about my product, have them stand 5 feet back from my computer, show them the image alone, no text, and have them try to guess what I'm selling. If they have, if they guess and they're somewhat close, it's probably a good image. If they have no idea or they guess completely incorrectly, it's probably not a good image. So again, don't try to be fancy, just show off what you are selling. So something else, again, back to blending the ads into the organic content. What do people see on Facebook? They see photos of their friends and family and of course themselves. So this is what people are used to seeing. And so when you're thinking about the images to use, faces actually work really well. People. Okay? But you don't want to use highly photoshopped stock photos. You want to use real people, real photos. You can go take them with your cell phone. That's what people are used to seeing. You want to use real photos. You can ask your customers for them or go take them yourself. So the copy is pretty straightforward, actually. This is the structure that I use for pretty much all the ads that I run. 1 or 2 value propositions. Why should someone use your product? What value do they get out of it? A price and or a discount, especially if the price or discount is part of the value. And a call to action other than the button. So Facebook gives you a cool call to action button, but you also want to call it out in text. Tell your users what to do. You're pre-qualifying them. Click here to buy, click here to sign up, whatever it is. All right, we'll talk about targeting now. So this is who's going to see your ads and how you're going to get them to see your ads. First, I want to talk about the difference between Google Ads, Google AdWords, and Facebook ads. So Google AdWords is intent-based advertising. I have a dog, so I might go on Google and type in buy dog food. Now I've shown the intent that I want to buy dog food, and advertisers can target that intent with extremely high conversion rates. Now on the other hand, Facebook, I'm not going to go on there and search to buy dog food because that's just not how it works yet. What I would say is I might have a status update that says I love my dog. And now as an advertiser, you have to try to target me knowing that I have a dog, and let's say you're selling dog food. You want to advertise to me over time, assuming that eventually I'm going to want to buy dog food. Okay, so that's the key difference. Now, intent-based advertising is much more expensive because it has a much higher conversion rate. Passive advertising is less expensive. It has a lower conversion rate. Now, Facebook gives you a ton of segmentation options. There are mainly 4 that I use every single time, and then I layer on all the other ones. So these are the 4 that I use. Country, always, right? Different countries have different priced ads and different cultures, so they respond differently to images and products. So you want to segment that always. Also, men and women respond differently to different ads, different copy. Even if your product appeals to both men and women, they may not respond the same to a single advertisement. So you want to segment them out separately. Same thing with age. Right? A 20-year-old and a 50-year-old are completely different people. So you want to segment them separately. Something a 20-year-old is interested in is going to be much different than something a 50-year-old is interested in. And device. There are completely different experiences. Your mobile phone versus the desktop versus the iPad. Different experiences, different click-through rates. So you want to segment all these separately. And then after that, it's up to you. You need to figure out what works for the product or service that you're selling. Facebook gives you a ton of options. So if you're a dating site, you're going to want to target relationship status. If you're targeting people in college, probably education level or schools. So again, you need to figure out what works for your business. All right, this is awesome stuff. So lookalike models is pretty much the coolest advertising feature that I've seen on any platform, advertising platform on the web in a very long time. What it allows you to do is take a list of your current customers. So let's say I sell dog food, and I have 1,000 people who have purchased from me in the past, and I have their email addresses. Okay? I can upload them to Facebook. Facebook will analyze them, do their magic, and then I can create something called a lookalike model. And they'll generate a much larger list of potential customers that look demographically similar to that initial list of my existing customers. This works extremely well. If you have existing customers, I highly suggest using lookalike models. Okay, you can even segment your current customers even further by engagement levels. So let's say I have 1,000 people who have registered for my site and another 1,000 who have actually paid me. These are different sets of people, and you should upload them separately. All right, now best practices, just general tips and tricks. Facebook's campaigns are structured in 3 tiers. The top tier are campaigns, under them ad sets, and within the ad sets you put your ads. Now the main thing to know here is that all ads within a single ad set compete against each other on the basis of click-through rate. So if I have 5 ads within a single ad set, as soon as Facebook sees that one of them is doing better in terms of click-through rate, they will shift all the budget to that ad very quickly. Okay? So the only time you really want that to happen is when you're testing images or copy. But if you're testing different ages or different genders, you want an equal split of budget. So it's important not to keep gender or other segmentations in the same ad set, only images and only copy. Now, between campaigns and ad sets, it's really up to you how you want to structure it. The way I do it is significantly different tests I make as different campaigns. Now let's say I want to target 5 age ranges, I would make them all different ad sets. Okay? Split test everything. So I can't stress this enough. You want to be able to tell which of your segments, which of your variables is actually making the difference in your ads. So in this example, I'm targeting 1 country, 2 age ranges, 2 genders, and 2 images. Now, to get all the permutations out of them, I need 8 ads. And this will allow me to see if one of them does better, I know exactly why, because I isolated every single variable. So here's some last quick tips. Use optimized CPM bidding. So when you're creating an ad, Facebook asks you for an objective. Again, this talk is about getting people to convert on your external website. So you're going to want to specify optimizing for conversions. Facebook will provide you a piece of JavaScript that you can put on your site that tells them when somebody converts. And now, by using optimized CPM bidding, you don't actually have to manage the budget, or manage the bidding. Facebook will do that for you and optimize for the maximum amount of conversions. So at the beginning of the talk, I also mentioned keeping your ads fresh. That's really important. There's this metric in Facebook called frequency, which is the average number of times somebody sees your ad. And to reduce banner blindness, I typically like to keep it at or below 2, frequency below 2. And that'll make sure that no one's seeing your ad a bunch of times and your click-through rate won't be penalized. Focus on click-through rate. Facebook rewards you highly for having a good click-through rate. Right? So the higher the click-through rate, the lower your cost per ad, whether you're bidding on a CPC basis or a CPM basis. Focus on click-through rate. And last, the audience size. So you have all these different ways to splice your audiences. At the end of the day, the sweet spot that I found is an audience size between 500,000 and 1.5 million. Anything more than that, it's really difficult to find a single ad that's going to appeal to all of them. So your click-through rate's going to be low. Anything less than 500,000, and you're going to find that you're refreshing your ads very frequently, and it just becomes a lot of work. So to recap, reduce banner blindness. You can't get rid of it, but hopefully you got some tips to reduce it as much as possible. Prioritize using the newsfeed ads. I pretty much don't run sidebar ads anymore. Use clear, concise images. Show what your product is, or show someone using your product. Make it obvious. Don't be fancy. Blend your ads into organic content when possible. Use faces. Target always first country, age, gender, and device. Always. Because they always perform differently. Use lookalike models. I cannot stress this one enough. Like between lookalike models and optimized CPM, you really don't have to do that much work anymore on Facebook. And last, test all variables separately. Right? So you want to make sure that when one of your ads is doing better, you know why. Thank you.
Anyone have one good question? You can pick.
And it's one of those overfishing your pond type of situations when you continue to run them and build an audience off of the same pool of users. Do you have any tips on how to better segment the kind of seed audience so that you're not deceiving them?
Sure. So the question is how to better segment your seed audience. So there's actually a couple things you can do. One thing I mentioned is segmenting by engagement level. So your highly engaged users, you should segment differently from your less engaged users. But then also you should be, every time somebody new is converting from Facebook, you should feed that back into your initial set and then remake that audience, because that'll make it more and more relevant and accurate. So hopefully that helps. Time for one more? No? Oh, that's it.